I need to clap too?
No.
Oh, was that like...
It was just me matching up the audio.
Oh.
Like when you like when you're doing editing, me clapping, I'll be able to see it on the audio wave as well as on the video. Like I'll see myself clapping, and then I can match it up with the audio recording.
Oh, nice. Heck yeah. Sweet.
Yo. So how's it going, man?
Doing good, man. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Thank you for sitting down. Can you state your name?
My name is Kyndal Ray Edwards, A.K.A. A Walking Testimony.
All right. Kyndal, what's going on? What are you doing up here in Eureka? And please tell us all about it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, James, for having me on here. So, Coach Kyndal Ray Edwards, A.K.A. A Walking Testimony. I'm currently walking America for mental health awareness and recovery. I've already walked across America, and now we're still going in remembrance of people who have lost their lives to drug overdose and or suicide, and for the ones that are still struggling, as somebody that's personally been down a life of depression, addiction, and crime myself. But it didn't start out that way, actually. I was raised, grew up, born and raised out of Jacksonville, Florida, which is where I actually started the journey. I wasn't raised in a broken home or anything like that. Like, my parents are still together. Love you, Mom and Dad. And I grew up in the church. I was in the church every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I did private school. My first year in public school was like 5th grade. I did plays in the school, anything in between, church camps every summer. I even learned how to play guitar and the piano in the church. Used to lead a church praise band. Used to write songs that the praise band that I led would actually play in the church, like music that I wrote. And I was like, wow. It was crazy, but it was actually somebody in the church band was like the first person that I ever got high with. Now, I will go ahead and say walking for recovery and addiction and things like that. Self-awareness is very, very important. A lot of people think of addiction and just automatically think drugs. For me, before I ever knew what drugs were, I grew up in a very sheltered household. Before I ever knew what drugs were, which I think it might have been 14 or 15 when I ever even first saw what weed looked like, or any other substance out there, regardless. But my bad. This is the worst part, that I'm so bad about this stuff.
You're saying addiction isn't just drug affiliated?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's where the self-awareness is super, super important, because I have to realize, even though I grew up in a good household, I really can't put why I actually even went down to doing this, but I had an addiction to lying and stealing. I never wanted to tell the truth, and I always wanted to take things that weren't mine, and I just thought that I could do it without any repercussions, even though there was always repercussions almost every single time I did it, which was just absolutely terrible in a sense. But went through the lying and the stealing phase. Grew up. My parents used to run an Atlantic self-storage out of Florida, which was a storage facility that had an apartment above the stairs, and we lived there for 6 years. At one point, I had gotten a hold of this binder, and it was called the ACC book, Automatic Credit Card Book, and it had people overseas or out of state that couldn't be there to pay their bills every month, but had to get it paid every month. And I had access to all these credit card numbers, and I'm like 12 years old, dude, just using all these people's number, buying all this stuff online. At that point, I had even developed a porn addiction. I was paying for all these websites and getting all of these memberships and logins, and then I was going to church and passing out all these logins to all these different websites. Gosh, it's so, Lord forgive me. Oh man. But for all these it's I'm laughing. It's really, it's terrible, but it's kind of funny. But not that I was stealing, whatever. It was a bad thing. But I would go to church and hand out these passwords and stuff to these websites, and I thought that I was cool, this, that, and the other. Turns out I was really setting myself up for destruction in the long run. And it's weird. And now that I don't really know if this is what developed that, and it probably did play a part subconsciously, but like in the church at a really young age, I had actually been sexually abused in the church, which I didn't really think about the severity till years later, which actually I didn't even think about the severity till after I was stealing credit cards, you know what I'm saying, and developed that addiction to porn at the time. But I finally realized it years later, and then like it brings out this huge bout of depression. The church that we were going to, not the one that all the bad stuff happened in, but you know we went to different churches growing up. But we ended up at this church that we were at for years, and there was a guy that went to this church, and he was a vendor for Little Debbie Company, and he had all these boxes of these Little Debbies that were like not shelf life anymore, but they were still edible and good to eat. So I gained so much weight. We were talking about the weight thing earlier. Like, I gained so much weight by like 12 years old. I weighed like 198 and wore like size 36 pants and men's, and just no self-esteem. Couldn't stand myself. Didn't really enjoy my life. My freshman year of high school, I saved up lunch money and bought a gun from a kid at school, and this apartment complex that we lived in at the time. Like you have the apartments, a parking lot across the road, and then part of the parking lot were these these garages with a fence behind them, and like where two lines of garages joined, there was like a hole in the fence. And I went back there one day, and I brought this gun back there, and I pointed it at my head, and I went to go pull the trigger, and the gun jammed. And then I turned around, and I didn't really know anything about guns or anything like that. And then I turned around, and I went to go pull the trigger again, and then the gun fired. And then I kind of freaked out, and I tossed the gun and went back in, cried myself to sleep. And I didn't think about it then, but like I realized that after a certain point of time or whatever that like, you know, I have purpose. I was meant to be there. Like I shouldn't be there because of that, but I was there. So fast forward, and this was after I got kicked out of church camp. I got kicked out of church camp for stealing a bunch of people's money. I worked at a church camp for like 7 months, and I just was causing all these problems. At church camp, 4th of July 2007, I had an ATV land on top of me from like, we took this big jump on this dried out retention pond. I was on the front luggage rack, actually hit this big hill, got all this air. I fell off up top, and it landed on my back, and I went to the hospital. But I was completely okay. It was just crazy. I was completely okay. Get home, got kicked out of church camp. Through that, we ended up moving out of the storage facility to the apartment complex, which is where I tried to take my life. And it was not much longer than that I got hit by a car. Walking home from school, I got nailed by a car. My hands were literally indented in the hood of this car. I lived in the same apartment complex as it, so I got to walk by this car every day and see like my hands being embedded, and so like just all these crazy things. Like I shouldn't have been standing. I should have broke bones or something, but I didn't. You know, I was okay. Like I got up, like walked away with a little bit of road rash. I pulled a groin muscle whenever I got hit by the ATV that like caused me to fall for a second, but like I got back up and I was, you know, fine. Like I went to the ER, but there was nothing wrong with me. And you know, after that bout with trying to take my life on my freshman year of high school and all that, I ended up moving to a whole different school. We ended up getting like our first house or whatever, moved to a different school, and that's where I kind of started getting more and meeting the people that I started getting high with and doing stupid stuff with. So my best friend that was in the praise band at church with me, he would come over and hang out at my house for weeks at a time. Like we were good kids, we just, you know, hung out. And so after he started getting high, I wanted to start getting high with him. And then it was trying other stuff. I ended up getting arrested as a juvenile and doing this teen court program where every Thursday night I had to take a drug test. And so I had to stop smoking weed. Well, it was the same time that like that synthetic stuff that they were selling out of the gas stations came out, the K2 and the all that stuff. So my cousin actually introduced me to the K2 stuff, and we start smoking. Well, now that I can pass drug tests, after I passed my first drug test, I'm like, wow, he's not lying. Like, I'm good to go. So now I'm getting high in the parking lot of the courthouse right before I'm going in to do my drug test. And, like, I'm passing all my drug tests. And people are looking at me, like, knowing that I'm faded. Like, how are you passing your drug test, dude? I'm like, I can't tell you, because this stuff was, like, just coming out. I end up developing a huge addiction to that synthetic stuff and cough medicine. People ask me, like, what was your favorite drug? What was your biggest drug addiction? This, that, and the other. Like, I did tons of drugs. My worst addiction, where I dealt with withdrawals and I did stupid stuff because I needed to get that next fix, was K2 and cough medicine. It was synthetic over-the-counter cough medicine and over-the-counter synthetic weed. Like, and I had a problem. I was up to where I was smoking up to an ounce of the K2 a day, which is just straight chemicals sprayed on herbs. Like, you literally spray chemicals on herbs. And I was doing like 4 boxes of triple C's a day. There's 16 pills in a box of triple C's. So I was doing like 64 pills a day on the triple C's. Like, it was shutting down my body, like, where I couldn't, like, my bladder wouldn't function. Like, I'd have to pee so bad, but nothing would come out. I could just sit there and stand at a toilet for 20 minutes and nothing would come out. I'd have to sit on the toilet and pee for like 2 years. It was bad. It was sad. It was embarrassing. But it was just how I lived my life. I would steal from my parents. I would pawn all their stuff. And I did all this crazy stuff, but I didn't necessarily have to. You know, I didn't have to go steal to get the fix. I could go do this, that, and the other, or like do a little bit of work for my parents, make a little bit, but like there was something about stealing, so I ended up coming up to the term with like, it's not the term, but a realization that it's so much addiction, so much more than just drugs or something like that. I brought up the lying and stealing. Me, it's all combined into an addiction that I still have, and that's adrenaline. Now, normally when you just throw away an addiction, you don't just throw it away. You pick up something else, or you bring in something new to cope with or something like that. You know what I mean? You don't normally just get rid of something completely without any other something to fill in the void. There I go again.
So how'd you replace your addiction?
Oh yeah, so instead of doing negative things, so I'm a recovery coach through a group called Addict to Athletes. One of their main mottos is erase and replace. So it's erasing the negative things and replacing them with the positive things. So I started working out when I was in prison, my second time in prison, changing my life. And there's so much which I'll get to that. But yeah, hold on, we'll get back to that in a minute. So either way, I just started doing all this crazy stuff when I really, really didn't have to. I was 18, ended up going to county jail, did something stupid, took my mom's laptop, ended up doing like 36 days in the county jail. My mom tried to drop the charges after a month of me being in there. State's attorney wouldn't drop it. They dropped it to a misdemeanor, released me on my own recognizance. And then I ended up going to... Oh yeah, they released me on own recognizance. Like just a couple weeks later, I ended up going to another county jail for taking my mom's coworker's credit card, and I bought a large Dr. Pepper out of Sonic and did another month in county jail for a drink. And then I got out, went directly to rehab that I ended up getting court ordered into. Stayed for about a month and a half, said I didn't want to be there anymore, ended up leaving, which I came back within the same week and without violating my probation. Ended up leaving and violating my probation like 9 months later anyways, because I just said I didn't want to be there anymore. Just in and out of county jail, ended up catching a year in the county jail in 2013. That's when I came across a newspaper article titled America on Foot about this guy named Harrison Melanian, who walked from Tallahassee, Florida to Laguna Beach, California. And I fell in love with the story reading the article. I was like, wow, modern day Forrest Gump, like super, super cool. I love that movie growing up. Like, I want to do something like that. 2014, I get out of county jail. I find him on social media. I'm like, hey, man, like, I fell in love with the story. I read this in county jail. Like, I want to do something like that. What do you think? He was like, dude, highly recommended. Well, it was a couple of days later before he reached back out. But when he did, I was like super excited. I was like, no way. He was like, man, it highly recommended, dude. He was like, anybody that has like the physical capability, just it was a life-changing experience for the better. He's like, the only thing I would have done different is walk for a cause. I was like, oh, great idea. So I go online in like 2014. I'm like, hey guys, January 1st, 2015, I'm going to take off with my feet in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to walk to California. But I want to walk for a cause. What do y'all think? I ended up picking 2 different causes that were completely irrelevant and contradictory to my lifestyle at the time. And then later on, 2014, I'm telling everybody, hey, I'm going to walk across America. I'm going to take off January 1st, 2015, this, that, and the other. It was either August or September. I was dating this girl, and we ended up getting in this crazy situation where we got like roofied by this truck driver. And I ended up going outside in this neighborhood, getting in an argument with like my neighbors, and got jumped by like 6 people. Ended up going to jail. My face got bashed into the concrete. Actually, I ended up hogtied in the back of the cop car that night and didn't even remember it. Somebody had to tell me a couple of days later that I had been hogtied in the back of the cop car. I'm like, no way. They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, not good. Like, I can't believe that. But ended up getting out on probation like a month later, and that probation was going to keep me from taking off January 1st, 2015. So I was like, hey, I'll just push it back 6 months. January 1st, 2015, while I was still on probation, I ended up breaking into a post office and going to prison, where I did 18 months in prison, caught probation, which whenever I was on probation, I had a job and I was paying all my fines. I was just smoking weed. My judge, who had even lost a daughter to a drug overdose, didn't have a problem with weed, and saw that I was paying my fines and stuff, literally dropped my probation with a year left, like, just because I was paying my fines and had a job. And it was just weed that I was violating on. So, judge ends up dropping it. Like, I don't want to see you back in my courtroom. You know, you've been in enough trouble. You're in and out of county jail, this, that, and the other. Ended up back in his courtroom a couple months later, 2 days before Mother's Day, 2017, May 2017. Me and some of my friends were being disrespectful. We were on acid and cocaine in my parents' garage, and ended up getting in this really, really big argument where my dad went to go swing a guitar at me, missed me, accidentally hit my mom in the nose. Me and him got in a big fight. Ended up leading to he could have easily lost his life that night. But he ended up getting his breath back right before the cops got there, but I went to jail on a domestic. When I got out, like a month later, the girl I was dating at the time had bonded me out, and I couldn't go back home. I had an injunction on my dad, so I was staying in. This wasn't a storage facility that we lived at, but when we moved, my mom still managed a storage facility. And it was like a 4-story climatized self-storage thing, and her unit was on the top floor. So I was sleeping in her unit for a while, but I was breaking into the storage units while I was staying there trying to get people's stuff. And then me and 2 other people went and kicked in a drug dealer's door. That something I didn't know till after I got locked up. One of the people that I was with, me and 2 other people, kicked in the same exact drug dealer's door a month before and held them up a shotgun and like took their safes and everything like that. So they had cameras and stuff inside, and thank God the people weren't home and they were supposed to be home, or I probably wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be in there on home invasion still, but they weren't home. But cameras ended up getting triggered like a minute and a half to being in the house, and like we fled. I ended up getting picked up a few weeks after they got picked up, caught 5 years. And this is crazy because the day I got sentenced to 5 years, my mom was in the courtroom and asked like the judge, like, hey, can I say something, Your Honor? And he was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, we know that you're giving him the 5 years. That's kind of what we expected. She was like, but can you please put him in rehab after? Now, And anybody that hears this is not me like saying anything bad about any recovery meetings, groups, organizations, rehab facilities, anything like that. But I want you to understand the importance of this. A support system is amazing. Those things are great. My judge told my mom that he would not sentence me to rehab because I had violated probation so many times and been to rehab before, and it didn't work. But obviously, but he knew that I wasn't dumb. He just knew I was making stupid choices and could care less at the time. He said, yes, we sentence people to rehab. Yes, the support system is great. He's had a lot of support system. He still has a good support system, but he's violated all this. He's like, I'm not going to put him in rehab. When that man's ready to get right, he's going to get right. Next 2.5 years, I'm bringing stuff through the gate. I'm playing with my time. I'm fighting people that disrespect me. Like, I'm standing up for myself. Like, I didn't cause problems in prison, but I stood up for myself really quick. Like, I fought the biggest dude on the compound at one point and got my head beat against like a metal door like 5 times. It was that me and him became friends after, but it was a crazy situation. It really was, bro. I have people on my Facebook that were there when it happened that would be like, yeah, dude, it was crazy. I just did all this stupid stuff. So I was playing with my time. I obviously didn't care about my freedom because at any point, like, I could go to the box, I could lose my game time and stuff like that. But I had gained weight in prison. Years of doing drugs and running the streets and all that. I got skinny for a while, you know. Like, I had self-confidence and all that. Quickly lost after I gained my weight back in prison. Like the people that I would joke with, like, my buddies and acquaintances in there, like, it went from, like, Kyndal to, like, my nickname was Bad Bodied Kyndal, and they would call me BBK for short, and I didn't like it, and I was gaining this weight. I wasn't as big as I had been when I was younger, but I didn't like who I was becoming. I was just sitting there being lazy, doing time in prison. I didn't want to be there. But these people would invite me to come work out with them and invite me to come work out with them. And they were such an elite little squad out on the compound that everybody would look at them and be like, whoa, dude, like, I wish I could do what they do. And I would watch people go out there and never go out there again because they couldn't feel their legs the next day or something because of how hard these guys go. Yeah. Ended up getting out there with them one day. Actually, I'll go ahead and say this. Prison is not a place for you to get correction. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, prison and jail is not a place for correction. It's a place to just house people that y'all don't want on the streets that got in trouble or got caught doing something dumb, because you can get drugs just as easy in prison as you can on the streets, if not easier. The only difference is you might not be able to get every single type of drug when you want it, but somebody in that dorm, at some bunk in that dorm, is going to have something that you can get high on. And that's just is what it is. There's going to be drugs in prison. There's drugs in rehabs. There's drugs in homeless shelters. There's drugs in all of these places that there's just not enough crowd control or security, enough cavity searches to keep everything out of all the places. And that's just what it is. You can't help it. The streets, you might have to call 10 different people to find what you're looking for that day just to get your fix. You know what I'm saying? So, in a sense, it's easier to get drugs in prison and in jail than it is on the streets. That being said, I didn't do a ton of drugs in prison, but every once in a while, people would give me some Suboxone here and there. So, it was literally over somebody trying to give me free Suboxone one day. I got in an argument with them over it, and I didn't take it. It was like a week later, I was like, you know what, I just don't even want to do drugs anymore. And that was the day that I claimed my drug-free date. And that was April 12th, 2019. So 5 years coming up here in April, dude. I'm super excited.
Good. So that was in prison you claimed that date?
Yeah.
And that was a week after this Suboxone ordeal?
Yeah. Yeah, the dude trying to give me it. And that was about 2.5 years into that prison.
What, the guy was trying to give it to you to get rid of it or something?
No, he was just trying to give it to me, but, like, we just got in an argument, and I don't remember if it was even over the drug or just over something else that we were talking about, but it was just something stupid. It was just something stupid that I was like, you know what, dude, it's not even that important to me. I don't care about it like that. You know what I'm saying? in around the same time, dude, I started working out with the group. I had joined the dog program in prison. I was training pits and stuff, and started working out with these guys, dude, and it was hard. You know, the first time I ran a mile with them, because they always timed our miles, first time it was like a little over a 12-minute mile or something for me. My fastest mile with them was 5 minutes 57 seconds, you know. I went from barely being able to do a push-up to doing 100 burpees. Like, I was a monster, dude. And that did something for my mind, bro. When I started seeing the accomplishments, dude, my nickname went from Bad Body Kyndal to Roger from American Dad because my head was too big for my body, and I shedded so much weight in like a 2 to 3 month period. It was stupid, bro. I was putting in so much work. I was at a point where I could just go run 5 miles straight without stopping, and not think twice about it. I don't know where it came from. I just learned that it really was mind over matter. And anybody that doesn't believe in mind over matter, you know, if you are used to doing push-ups, this is the best way I can put it in perspective. If you are used to doing push-ups, you say you're going to do a set of 10 or a set of 20. By the time you get to, you know, 7 or 8 or like 15 or 16, you're going to start getting tired because the end is near and your mind knows it. But say that first set, you try 20 and you see where you start to get tired at. The very next day, or even the day before you could try it, is probably going to work the same way. Say you're going to do 30, or say a bigger number, you're going to hit that number, that smaller number, without thinking twice about it, because your mind's not ready to get tired at that point. Your mind can really go further than you want. And I've tried it. I've literally experimented with that specific process numerous times. And it's a real deal. So I changed my life, dude. I got really, really fit in prison. And it was my last year in prison. I was in work release program where I had an ankle monitor around my ankle. I was staying at like this old motel facility, which was like a prison facility. But it wasn't like no barbed wire fence or something, you know. But like, you had the check in, you had the check out, you wore the ankle monitor, you had to call when you got to work, you know, call when you're leaving work, heading back, 2-hour bus rides timed. After like the first 6 months, because of COVID and stuff, they opened up visitations and stuff where I actually got to go home on Sundays and visit my family for a few hours a day after a while, you know. But I was working up money, saving up a little bit of working a job, saving up a little bit of money, and there was this girl that was coming to my job to see me, and it ended up not working out with her, and I was really hopeful that it was going to work out. And when it didn't, I was like, you know what, whatever. I saw this canvas painting in the office, and it was the 7 continents, and then I saw America, and I was like, yo, I was going to walk across that one day. Sorry, that was a little loud. I was going to walk across that one day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the best physical condition of my life. I'm clean, like, I have a little bit of money saved up. I'm a completely free man, no probation, like all of that, like everything was lined up. I'm like, I'm in the perfect position to do it. Now, what could I walk for? Every day on Facebook, it was somebody posting another loss of life to a drug overdose, suicide of a family member or a friend or somebody close. And a lot of these people, you know, at that point were still like my friends on Facebook from before. So like I'm knowing a lot of these people are acquaintances. So I'm like, wow, this is like really hitting home. Like this is heartbreaking. I got clean in prison as fentanyl was coming out in street drugs. You know, fentanyl has been around for a very long time as patches and stuff for over decades. You know what I'm saying? But for street drugs to be cut into stuff where people are dying of overdoses from fentanyl specifically, that started happening as I was locked up. You know, that hardly happened before I got locked up. Here and there, but mainly it was every once in a while it was somebody that took too much heroin or popped too many pills or did an upper and a downer and exploded their heart or something like that, or too many uppers or something. But that fentanyl is something else, man. It was so crazy to see that, and the stuff that I've learned on this journey since then. Oh, it's just so bad. But I decided that I was going to walk for mental health awareness and recovery. So I asked people, like, does anybody have anybody that's lost their life to a drug overdose, suicide? I want to remember people on this journey. So that's when I decided to put together these shirts, and I have different edition of these shirts now that have 180 names. It says a walking testimony on the top, on the front, and it says the journey of a lifetime on the top, on the back, and it has 90 names on the front, 90 names on the back on each edition, 180 names on each edition. That stands for taking a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction from the things that are taking the people that we love and care about. 180-degree turn I had to take in my own life. But all these names of people who have lost their lives to drug overdose or suicide or mental health or recovery issues. And even though they're not with us, they're still being remembered at getting that journey of a lifetime. And we get to use that 180 as a representation to let other people know they don't have to end up as a name on that shirt. Me, myself, as somebody who has overdosed numerous times and tried to take my life twice, because I tried to take my life again in 2017 after something didn't work out with a girl. I went and popped 11 boxes of triple C's, just thinking I wouldn't wake up or that everything would shut down. I used to take 4 boxes a day, wake up the next day sober. I took 11 boxes, wake up completely just still messed up after 4 boxes. Took 11 boxes, woke up the next morning completely sober. It was just a weird thing, but I was like, wow, I'm meant to be here for a reason again. And it was shortly after that I ended up the incident with my dad and going to prison with the guitar and the garage and everything. But it was a lot, man. And so just to really change my life and really realize and remember that I want to walk across America and that I could do something positive, I was like, I have to do it. One of the main factors was my mom's gonna be like, oh son, you spent most of your adult life locked up. It's time to go do something real with your life. Like, go get a real job, this, that, and the other. I remember putting a post, and I remember seeing her like it and calling her a couple days later, like, hey, I saw that you liked this post. She was like, I think it's a great idea. And I was like, boom. Like, that was one of the main factors, and that was like a sign from God, like, oh, like, you got the backup. Like, that's the main support you were looking for, and you got it. Yeah. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So, I got out November 6, 2021. Like, for my last 2 months before I got out, I was on a laptop every day looking at GPS maps, like figuring out what I'm going to do for walking across and writing down all these cities and just posting consistently about it, doing promotional videos, setting up my walk and testimony page. Got out November 6th of prison after 5 years, November 6, 2021. Was out for a month and a half. Hung out with my family a little bit, hung out with a few friends, went and did some hiking and some long walks to practice. January 1st, 2022, I went and put my feet in the Atlantic Ocean and took off, man. And I walked across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington to put my feet in the Pacific Ocean. April 12th, 2023, which also doubled as my 4-year drug-free date. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to walk some more. So I went all the way up Washington to Cape Flattery, which is in Nia Bay, and that's the most northwestern point of the connecting United States. Connecting being the lower 48, not including Alaska and Hawaii. And then I decided I wanted to walk some more. Actually, I met these bikers at a campground that were talking about how they were biking to all 4 corners of the United States. I was like, hey, I want to walk it. So one day I go on Facebook. Didn't really talk about it with anybody. One day I just go on Facebook, hey guys, I think I'm going to walk the 4 corners of the United States. And here we are. And yeah, made it through Oregon, a different portion of Oregon. Just made it into California recently. And here we are in Eureka, California. I pushed a doggy stroller with a big sign that says "You Matter" on it. My goal out here is if I can keep one person from putting a gun to their head and pulling the trigger or putting a needle in their arm, not knowing that they'll never wake up again, then I did my job. Of course, the more lives saved, the better. I'm not out here for fame and fortune, but I am out here for awareness, and yes, that does take getting attention, and that's why I like to be able to come out here and share my story on platforms like this, or even just through my 5 different social media platforms that I share it through. As I'm going, I know there's nothing I can do to change anybody's lifestyle or mindset other than by inspiration of sharing my story or even sharing, the goodness of people in the world or other people who have been infected that might inspire somebody like, hey, wow, other people can change their life. I can do it too, and go decide to make that positive change in their life. I'm just out here to tell everybody and anybody that I can that you matter and we do recover, because you never know what anybody's going through and you never know who's struggling. And there's a lot of people that feel hopeless and that just feel alone and that feel like they're not loved or cared about, that feel like they would be better if they weren't here. And that's not true. And that's a little bit about me and why I'm walking across America, man.
Awesome. That's awesome. That was amazing.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for laying all that up.
Absolutely.
Man.
Phew. It's been a wild one. It's been a wild journey. Get to meet a lot of cool people. I've had a lot of cool opportunities and stuff like that. It's been epic. And none of it would have been able to happen if it wasn't for the grace, mercy, and love of God, if it wasn't for a willingness to want to change my life and actually make the sacrifices, the discipline, and get super, super out of my comfort zone to chase a dream I've had for a long time. Because it took a lot, and it's not easy. As dramatic as it sounds, a car could hit me numerous times a day. Like, it's really dangerous walking on the side of some of the roads I walk on. But I have a message, and it's a dream at the same time. So it's just really epic to be able to live it out.
For sure, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you actually sitting down and taking the time to do this. When Matt had said, I know we already kind of talked about this, but just to state on the record here for this video, when my buddy Matt had said he saw you walking down the highway, he said I needed to interview you, and I was like, all right, I'm trying to get these interviews going, and then I looked into your story a little bit more, like typed in a walking testimony on Facebook, and just started reading what you were posting. I was like, man, this guy's message is synonymous to what I'm trying to do, just share the stories, so people can see that we're all human, doesn't matter, we're all human, and so I really appreciate the fact that you sit here and tell your story, because this might inspire, like exactly like you said, someone to break out of their comfort zone, or the box that's holding them down, and that's the whole point of this. So I really, seriously, man, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
There's I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask, like on your journey, has it shown you, like what has it shown you about people as you've crossed the nation and met numerous faces? Like, we went to Target earlier and we were walking down an aisle and some lady said she recognized you. So what has it taught you about people?
So it's crazy. If you were to just Google different people who have walked across America, whether they walked across for a cause or not, and listen to news interviews that they've done, almost all of them will tell you the exact same, that there is way more good in the world than bad. And I would say, if I had to do a statistic, just like most statistics done out there, or most interview questions, you ask so many people questions, you tally it up, you do the average, and that's the number percentage you get for something. If I had to do the percentage with everybody I met and all the good experiences with people versus the bad experiences, I would say anywhere from 95 to 99% of the world is good. I haven't been everywhere in the world. This is just the states that I've been through in America, but of course, the reception, as the journey grows, the reception gets bigger because there's more people following. But I've had receptions from the first town, from 20 minutes after taking off of my feet in the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean, somebody seeing my car, asking me what I'm doing, and that man still follows my journey. His name is Will. He's the first person I got a picture with. And it's just so crazy. It's had a major impact on people, like, way more than I could ever imagine. And this is thing, like, and I love that it has had an impact, but I try not to focus on how big of an impact it is. Just the fact that it is impacting people, because if I focused on how big of an impact, that opens room for ego to get involved, and I try not to allow that to happen, because I want as many people in the world to be affected, but I don't ever want to be like, yeah, I did that, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's a team effort. I can't do this. I am walking alone, but I can't do it by myself. You know, the support through all the communities has literally kept me going in so many ways. People have kept me lodged as restaurants, and people have like cooked me home cooked meals. I don't really do shared lodging anymore. When I was on a much lower level, I definitely have stayed in people's houses. I've done a Thanksgiving in somebody's house. I did Easter. Right after I took off on the journey, my first few months, like I spent like 3 or 4 nights at somebody's house, sleeping on their couch for Easter, big family dinner, all kinds of stuff, man. A lot of people some people just don't know how to show the goodness that they have for others, you know, because there's a lot going on. This journeys tend to bring out a lot of goodness in others, because they see it's like a domino effect. You know, they see one person that does something, and more people in the community want to get involved. But the thing is, I try to acknowledge and recognize every single one of them to show people just how much good is in the world. And at the same time, a lot of companies get advertising out of it too.
It's mutually beneficial.
Yes,
it's like you're walking and spreading light.
That's exactly what it is. And I hear it all the time. But I also have to let people know, like, I do have a unique story with what I've been through, and I am in a unique position where I'm a very open and transparent person on a crazy level for all social media in the whole world. I don't care who sees my story, even my deepest, darkest stuff. Like, I'm open about it. Crap. Not this again. Totally forgot what I was about to say. My bad.
It's all good, man.
Dang it.
Well, you were going.
My bad, guys.
Yeah, so you were saying, you were saying something along the lines of you meeting all these people, inspiring people to domino effect.
Oh yeah, this is what I was going to say. That yes, I do have my story, and my story might be unique and inspirational to some people. But any blessing that I receive, or any opportunity that I get, or anything like that, like, I want anybody and everybody to know, like, it's not because I'm Kyndal Ray Edwards. It's because I am a human advocating for mental health and recovery. When you're doing something right, you know, of course, there's negative that likes to pop up. I've dealt with people that have tried to put me down for trying to have a positive messages and stuff like that. At the same time, those people matter too. But there's people that have shown jealousy because I have received blessings. There's been people like, oh, I wish I could receive something like that. When a lot of times, maybe not everybody's physically capable, but there's a lot of people that if they were to sacrifice the things that, you know, I had to sacrifice, or be willing to just separate and step out of that comfort zone, they would be able to receive a lot of the same type of blessings that they would be able to experience the goodness of the world and the craziness, amazingness that the world has to offer. It took a lot for me to be able to experience it. Like, it's a drastic situation I put myself in. It really, really is. But it's worth every bit of it, man. And you know how many people have pulled over on the side of the road and cried their eyes at me and told me their deepest, darkest secrets? Say, I'll never tell anybody again, but thank you for being transparent enough with your life to allow me to come over here and do that. I'm like, whoa, it's crazy, man. Yeah. It's an impact. It really is.
Just a mind. It's just a mind thing, mindset. You know, you'll live the life that you want to live, right? Yeah.
But you gotta be willing to put in the work. Also, you can't just expect it to happen because you want it, though. Too. That's the thing. You have to. All those steps I put in, I literally put in the steps. You might see me in the car getting a ride to a store, like walking halfway to a town, getting a ride back for lodging. I'll get a ride back right to where I left off to go, because I'm keeping those steps as legit as possible. Like, I'm putting in the work that I say I'm putting in, and I've been through a lot of hardships and stuff, but I've sown so many seeds, and I'm starting to reap it. And it's just super, super awesome. Super blessed, man.
Okay. trying to think.
5:45 too.
5:45. Well, to leave it off, please plug your message, your hashtag, your social medias, and leave the people off with just like as direct a quote as you can give them to send them off on the right message.
Absolutely, guys. So once again, Coach Kyndal Ray, A.K.A. A Walking Testimony. You can find me on Facebook under A Walking Testimony. You can find me under YouTube or Instagram under A_walking_testimony. Or if you got Google, which I think everybody has, you can just Google Walking Across America, A Walking Testimony. You'll find a lot of my news stories and stuff like that. On an ending note, guys, just know that anybody struggling with any depression or any suicidal thoughts or just down, just want to let you know that I'm so glad that you're still here today. I'm still here. He's still here. You're still here. And we're just thankful that you had the courage to be here today. And we just pray that you can take that existence and turn it into living your best life. I want you to know that you are loved and you are cared about. You have importance. You have value. Please never let anybody take that from you or tell you differently. If they are, you can cut them off. No matter how much you love them, you can love people from a distance. To anybody struggling in recovery, I just want to let you know, with the right mindset, a support system's great, but if you don't want it, then it doesn't matter. But with the right mindset, with a will to do it, and an awesome support system, man, we do recover, and you can do it. Even without that support system, if you really, really want it, you can overcome, and you got this. There's too many people losing their lives daily to drug overdose of fentanyl, and it's too heartbreaking. I don't want to see you as another name on that shirt. So everybody, you matter. We do recover, and God bless. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, James.